Let me start by explaining what we do in one sentence. What Software AG does is we help organizations digitally transform by turning data into value. And that allows organizations to be agile, that allows them to be resilient. And these two words are key in these times. This is the seventh time in a row we participate in Gitex, and I think this has been one of the most successful. And it was also very important for us, very important to be here this year, because we also think that having Gitex in Dubai at these times is a message to the whole world. I think it echoes the fact that Dubai is, and the UAE at large, is one of the fastest places going towards a recovery, and we were proud to be associated with that step towards the recovery. Yeah, I mean, I think I was personally averaging maybe 40 meetings a day. So it's been at times overwhelming. Probably the first day was a bit slow because people were checking things out, but then the second half of the first day up to the last day today, it's been traffic as usual, I would say, even compared to previous editions of Gitex. This Gitex has proven that you can, in the UAE, run a show that's successful, have people collaborate, communicate, meet customers and partners in a safe and responsible manner, and we're just elated to be here. The way I look at the pandemic, I think of it as a black swan event. So it's something that's highly improbable to happen, but can happen, and it did, but also has a high impact. So it impacted us all in some way or another, personally and professionally. Obviously, with the pandemic, there's an economic price to pay, and a lot of countries, a lot of nations had to pay a bit of that price. But and it is also, to a large extent, a human tragedy, first and foremost. But I think if there is one good thing, one silver lining that came out of these last 9 months, I think it's the realization that we can do better, we can be better prepared for the next black swan, whatever that may be. And I think there is a sinking feeling that technology can be the ammunition that you can have if you do it right, to prepare yourself, to be resilient. I was talking to someone yesterday about the notion of smart city. It has been around for some time, smart city. And what I was thinking is, we should stop calling it just smart city. We should start calling it a smart, resilient city. Yeah, because being smart, being connected is good, but what we've learned is we need to be prepared. Humankind needs to be better prepared, and we need to be prepared for the unknown, because now we know that a pandemic. We're prepared for a next pandemic, God forbid if it happens. Yeah. But what cities, what governments, what individuals, what professionals, and what companies need to be prepared for in the future is to arm themselves with the resiliency that can protect them and sustain them through the next black swan, the next unknown. And that's how we view it. And we also view technology and what I like to call it is a digital value chain. Because if you really think what can help you deal with unknowns is agility. Because the unknown is all about change. So you need to change, but you need to change fast. You cannot change anymore. Exactly. So in technology, we've always used to look at projects in months and years. That cannot be. That cannot exist anymore. We need to talk hours and days to roll out solutions that can help you deal with a next crisis, a next event, a next opportunity, for that matter. And so the digital value chain, back to that, change, agility, and agility is the outcome of deploying the right technology. I think there are two dimensions for that. Yeah, so adopting new technology is one, and adopting new technology um, not just for the sake of adopting technology, because you know we could easily fall into that pitfall of of just following the hype, and we as vendors are sometimes also susceptible to that. But in these times, I think we've learned to be also as vendors be more responsible and accountable, and look at technology with outcome, not just for the purposes of the technology. The technology on its own is not the destination. It's the mechanism that can get you somewhere. So the approach is very important, and the technology is one aspect to it, as we said. And some technologies, if you think about them, IoT, for example. IoT, what if I want to simplify the notion of IoT, Internet of Things, what it does, it allows you and everyone to decouple physical presence from data. So you don't need to go to a machine to get the data. You don't need to go to a refinery to get the data. You can get the data by reading out of sensors that are connected, that are integrated. So that decoupling, you can imagine how many scenarios we can create in this new world that that can help us deal with the next black swan, as you said, of the future. So I do not need to be physically present to run my business, which is something we've learned in the last 9 months. The other thing, I mentioned the approach. I think we need to look at technology adoption in a little bit of a different way. We need to look at technology adoption in terms of digital building blocks. And I'll link that to the agility. Yeah, digital building blocks, small, very small digital building blocks. I think the best analogy I can give to that is Lego. So if you have Lego pieces, you can easily assemble a small house, you can assemble a boat, and you can do that in a relatively short time compared to the scenario where you don't have any pieces to play with and you need to build a house or a boat from scratch. Digital building blocks are a very similar take on that, but from a technology perspective. I build these pieces, I prepare myself, and then when an opportunity knocks or when crisis strikes, I assemble these pieces and come up with a solution back to the days and hours agility requirement of the new norm, if you will. Yeah. So I think that approach that has been around for some time, but I think today has really gone to prominence and has really we started talking about that years ago, the platform approach, building blocks, small digital blocks that you can assemble to whatever you need, because your needs of tomorrow, you don't know them today. The idea of transforming is out there and has been out there for a while. And if you think about a proper transformations, which includes preparing yourself with these digital building blocks, the first step of a transformation is very simple, in my opinion. It's to know where you currently are as an organization. And that's easier said than done, yeah? And that's probably the most common pitfall of transformation journeys. Because if you start thinking of your destinations, of where you want to go, without knowing with clarity where you are today, you're probably going to make a few mistakes along the way, and these mistakes can be costly.
And do you see that?
We see that, absolutely, we see that. And that's what we help organizations with at the beginning of a transformation. So we help them create intelligent blueprints of their organization. And if you look at an organization, and when I say organization, by the way, it could mean a government, a city, a private entity, a public entity, across the board, exactly. And if you think of what defines an organization, it's the people, the technologies they use, the processes by which they interact with their constituents internally and externally. It's the markets they operate in or the countries they operate in. It's the risks they face. These are all components of any organizations. And what we do is we create blueprints of how the current state scenario of all these different constituents, organizational constituents are, and help organizations understand in reality with looking at that with strategy as the the high level umbrella. Exactly, and when you bring all this information into a single platform, that gives you a very important capability, which is to analyze, and then you can think of your transformation scenarios. Where do I want to go? And that exactly. So the question of where do I want to go as an organization, how do I want to transform, gets new meaning if you have clarity on your starting point. And that's something we've been very busy doing over the past 5 years, particularly in the region. You know, it's very interesting that we are a global company. We operate in practically every place on earth. But we have a common belief across our organization that this region particularly has this appetite, appetite for transformation and change, and there are no boundaries, there is no taboos in change. Absolutely, and that's something that we appreciate, we value, and also allows us to do what we do in a better way.